Hi! Welcome everyone! Today we're going to be talking about my favorite books of 2024, and there were actually quite a lot, I would say. This video was originally a best and worst books I read in 2024, but I decided to split it into two parts, so definitely be sure to check that one out as well. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with the first one, and the book is called Heartless Hunter, and it wasn't one of my favorite books. I just had to throw it in here to say that this was everything I expected but didn't get from Powerless. So this book was also a romantasy, and I actually really enjoyed it. And I know I said before that I didn't know for the other ones that they were romantasy, so maybe that's why I didn't like them. But actually for this one I also didn't know it was a romantasy at first, but I still enjoyed it. I just had to adjust. Like in the first moment I was like, whoa, okay. But then I just like had to adjust to it, and I could actually really enjoy it. So this was actually pretty fun. It wasn't like the best book I ever read, but it was a very good romantasy. Like the banter, that's what I mean. Like the banter was pretty fun. And for this one you can actually tell that they really don't like each other at the start, because I'm pretty sure in Powerless it was the same. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was also like enemies to lovers. But you could just tell from the very beginning, like they were flirting with each other. Like, I don't know, but for me, every time they talked to each other, I was like, just make out. Just go for it, because the way you're talking to each other, we know you don't hate each other. And yeah, for this one, they really hate each other. And it was really fun. And it's also like the characters, although maybe that's not true. I was gonna say they are pretty clever, but then again, sometimes they are also pretty dumb. So I don't know, but I just enjoyed, like, they are both trying to one-up each other. So that's what I like. Not that they are clever, but just that they try to be smarter than the other one the whole time. And it's actually really fun. I really liked it, and I read this book very much at the end of the year, and towards the end of the year I was in such a big reading slump. So this actually was very refreshing, because I couldn't find any books that I wanted to read, and it wasn't hard to read, so that was pretty fun. The ending was pretty obvious to me, but I still enjoyed it. And I am excited because I'm pretty sure the second book comes out next year, so I'm definitely gonna read that. So yeah, that's all I have to say for Heartless Hunter. So this one was like an honorable mention, but for the next ones, I would say all of these were my favorite. I don't know if there's like an order. Like I put them in an order, I guess. But I don't know if there actually is an order of which ones I liked the most. These are all like books that I gave 4.5 or 5 stars. So yeah. So the first one's pretty obvious. It's Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, and I feel like it's probably on almost everyone's best list of books this year. But I gotta be honest, I'm personally, like, I'm not the biggest Sally Rooney fan, and I have read all of her books and I enjoyed them, but I didn't love them. Like, I feel like there's people that say they would read her grocery list, like they would read anything she writes. I don't know if I would agree on that. I do like her writing, I don't like her characters, and I know we're not supposed to like them, but I just sometimes, I feel like the plot is also boring. And it's just annoying when the characters are just so dumb and never learn anything and just make the same mistakes over and over and over again. So I don't love her books. Although I also have Beautiful World, Where Are You on this list. Those were like the two good ones in my opinion. No, I think Intermezzo is actually my favorite of hers so far. Maybe because I just like the premise a lot better. Like, I also really like Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I think I like those two the most because the main relationship is not a romantic relationship. I think that's the thing, that for Intermezzo it's the two brothers, and for Beautiful World, Where Are You? It's the two best friends. And I just think she writes these types of relationships better than romantic relationships, because they are just more interesting the way she writes them, in my opinion. And for Intermezzo, I really liked just like the way these siblings are so different, and like they are so far apart in age, so they just live in completely different lives, but they end up still connecting through their differences. And it was just really interesting, and also like a very interesting take on grief and how to get through grief and how grief's gonna affect your life. And I think that's what I liked the most about this book, that it was not really about the romantic relationships, but it was really mostly about how does grief affect your relationships. So yeah, I think that's my favorite one. Now we can also talk about Beautiful World, Where Are You Though? I really like that one as well. I think the writing was just beautiful, as well for Intermezzo, obviously. But I also really liked the relationship between these best friends. And it just had way more of an impact on me than, for example, Normal People, which is my least favorite book of her. So that's all I have to say about Sally Rooney for now. The next book is The Handmaid's Tale. And when I tell you, this book was insane. I was also reading this when I was still kind of in my reading slump, and I was on the edge of my seat. This book was so crazy, but afterwards, when I finished it, and I think I finished it in one day, like I literally sat at home in my tiny apartment for a whole day, and I just didn't move. And after that, I was like, oh my god, I feel like I need to get back into the real world, because this world is traumatizing. So I want to talk about it for a second. It was really interesting. So the book follows this fictional dystopian world where I think it's supposed to be in the 80s or 90s, because it's also been written a while ago. And in a state in America, which I don't remember which one it was, but somewhere in America, like one state, I think, decided to go back to using the Bible as like the pure, how do you say it? Like the pure inspiration for life. And so women are just not seen as humans anymore. They are just there to breed children. And they are like there to serve their masters. Like the rich men, they have a family, and for the woman it's like when you have a husband and you're like a great wife, whatever, then great for you, you can stay there. But if you're a woman that has sinned, and according to their regime, sin is anything like divorce, having a child on your own, like being a mom on your own, like anything that is not the perfect relationship, marriage, whatever. I don't know if it's also if you had like sex before marriage, I don't know, but like if you have done any sins, then you're not seen as a woman anymore, although the other women aren't seen as women either, really. And you get sold to like a man, and you have to live with that man and all the other women that have sinned, and you have to be there to bear children. And the book was very traumatizing, but the writing was so good, and just like the whole world was really interesting. Like obviously it's insane, but it's really interesting to think about it. So I really enjoyed it. I definitely was terrified after, and like I said, I was like, oh my god, I need to go outside and see real people. But no, it was really interesting. And there's a TV show, I'm pretty sure it has like a lot of seasons, so I was thinking about starting it, but I don't know yet. Okay, my battery died, so I hope the lighting is still okay, because it's 4 p.m. and it's getting dark. But yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, I think I talked about Sally Rooney and then The Handmaid's Tale, right? Okay, so the next one is also just an honorable mention, I guess. I just forgot about it before. And it's Clockwork Princess, specifically the epilogue. Because this year I decided to get back into Cassandra Clare, because when I was a teenager, the Shadowhunter books were my life. They were my everything. And then I got older and realized maybe they should not be my everything. So then I just stopped with Cassandra Clare. But for some reason this year I really wanted to get back into it. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't even know that there were more books before. So then when I realized, I was like, okay, I just feel like I need to know more about this universe. So I read The Infernal Devices and I really liked them. I know I'm actually sad that I only knew The Immortal Instruments when I was younger, because this book series was really good. I really liked it. The characters were great. This is the only love triangle I will ever accept. I don't think I have ever read a love triangle that I liked, except this one, which is honestly surprising. I really liked it, and especially the epilogue. Like, I cried, and Cassandra's writing was just beautiful. So I need to talk about it, but that's all. Oh, I actually didn't put it in here, but I still want to talk about it for a second. I don't know how to pronounce the name though. So there's this short story, and I'm just gonna put it here. And it's written by Madeline Miller, so maybe if you know Circe or Song of Achilles. She also wrote this short story, and it's about this woman that's actually a statue. Basically, I guess technically it's about the man. This man, and he made a statue of like the perfect woman, in his opinion, because he thought real women weren't good enough. And so he made the statue of the perfect woman and then prayed to the gods to make her a real person, because he just thinks real women aren't good enough. He probably couldn't get any of them, which is why he thought that, but anyways. And it talks about freedom and what is freedom, because she's essentially made by this person, but she's still her own person. And she doesn't have to belong to this man just because he made her. Now that she is a real person, she should have free will. And that was really interesting, and I really liked that. So I actually didn't write that down, but I remembered it, and I really liked it, so I wanted to talk about it. Okay, I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Janet McCurdy, and it's basically just a memoir biography of her being a child actor and being raised as a child actor. And it was really, really, really interesting. It's definitely not an easy read, especially if you have a similar parental situation. It's definitely not easy to read, for sure. And it was very triggering and stressful for me. But it's really interesting, and I think Jeanette, she has such an interesting humor, and I feel like a lot of people didn't get it because they didn't get the humor, so they thought the book was just a lot. But I think that was what made it so unique, and like it really felt like her. I also read the audiobook, so I really liked the way she was telling it. You could really feel her humor because she told it herself, the way she wanted to write it probably. And it is definitely very sad, but it was just really interesting and really made me think about child actors a lot more, because obviously you always think, oh no, those poor children, but when you get like real life, but when you get the point of a real life person, it's just a little different. So then I also got into the Raven cycle this year, and I really, really enjoyed the first two books, and then I didn't love the other two as much, but I really, really enjoyed the first two, especially the second one. So that's the one that I have in here as well. I really like this book, maybe also because I think Ronan is my favorite character, and I do think this book focuses a lot on him. And I also like dream things, so obviously the Dream Thieves, you can tell in the name, it has a lot to do with dreams and stuff like that, and what you can do in a dream, and I really like it. And it also just felt like very mystical, whimsical. If you know Ghibli movies, to me it felt a little bit like that. Also storytelling wise, because it was a little bit of a slower paced story, like all of Raven Cycle's more of a slower pace and more character focused series, I would say. But yeah, I really, really like this book, so that's all I think I have to say about it. Okay, then I also have Before the Coffee Gets Cold in here, and I actually don't have the book here, but I got the second book for Christmas because I got the first one for Christmas last year, technically the year before last year. I got the first one for Christmas in 2023, and then I read it at the beginning of 2024. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing again with this one. I'm gonna read it now, and probably I might get the third book in the series for Christmas in 2025. I don't know yet. But yeah, I really like these books. They are also very short, which makes them very nice reads when you're in a reading slump or trying to get out of a reading slump, which is still me right now. I swear to God, I think since October I have been in a reading slump. Like, I have read some books, but I have started so many more and then DNF'd them, not because they were bad, but just because I couldn't focus and I just didn't feel like it. So I'm hoping that maybe reading this tiny book will get me back into it again as well. Okay, before the coffee gets cold, in this book we follow a cafe, I guess, and it's like 3 or 4 different short stories about people going to the cafe. Because this is not a normal cafe, it's very special, because if you sit on a specific spot in the cafe, you can travel through time. You can't change time though, so like if you go back and then do something, it's not gonna change. Everything's gonna stay the same. And so the question is, why would you go back if you can't change anything? And I don't know, I thought it was very interesting, had a very interesting outlet on things, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to read the second one. Okay, the next book is The Starless Sea, and you gotta know I love Erin Morgenstern. Like I talked about before, how people would read Sally Rooney's grocery list. I would read Erin Morgenstern's grocery list. I love her books, especially this one. I really just, for me, I love books that are like my favorite film is Interstellar, for example. I really like those type of things, like Inception, like a dream and a dream and a dream, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, this book is similar to that. It starts with this guy going to university, and he gets a book from the library and reads through it, and it's just short stories of very different short stories. Like one is about a pirate, then I don't remember, but then one story is about a little boy, and he realizes that this little boy is actually him, because the story he's reading is something that happened to him when he was a child. And so he's very confused, and I don't even think I can say more because literally anything else is a spoiler. Like even this, I wouldn't say it's a spoiler, but it kind of is, because yeah, anyway, I don't want to say anymore. I really liked it. I really hope she brings out another book. I don't remember, when did this book come out? I don't know when this book came out, but because she likes to take her time with writing books, which I love, because I would rather you take your time until it's perfect than write a bad book. So yeah, I hope someday she writes another one, and I will definitely be there. Also, honorable mention, The Night Circus. I love that book so much as well, but I think I like this one even better actually. So the next book is actually a reread of mine, and it's Turtles All the Way Down. And you gotta know, this is my favorite John Green book, because I was a John Green girly when I was 15 for sure. And this one was my absolute favorite John Green book, and I just always found the main character so relatable, and I really loved her. And then years later I found out she had OCD. Could have told me something. But yeah, I reread the book because earlier this year a film adaptation actually came out, and the last time I read it, like I said, I think I was 15, so I just wanted to read it again before I watched the film to see, like, to compare. I really like the film as well, so if you don't want to read the book, watch the film. I think it was really nice, and I think it's so hard because most of the book just takes place inside the main character's head. Like, we just hear her thoughts and what she thinks about and all that stuff, and it's really hard to portray that in a film, I think, because you can't have like a narrator narrating the whole time. Then you can just read the book, but I think they did a really good job. And yeah, the book is just about a girl struggling, I guess, with life, and she also has OCD, so that does not make her life easier. And it's just about a teenage girl, so like she falls in love, but then, you know, it's not easy when you're not in a great place mentally, and I really like the book. So it's definitely in my top tier list for sure. Okay, another book I did give 5 stars is Rule of Wolves, but I already made a whole video about it, so I'm just not gonna talk about it right now. I love Six of Crows. I enjoyed this one. I still think Six of Crows is better, and I don't think I would give it 5 stars now that I thought about the book more. So if you want my opinion on the book, just go to the other video. The next book is called The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and I really like that one as well. I also made a video talking about this one as well, so I'm just not gonna go into the plot so much. If you want to know more about it, just watch that other video. I really like this book. I don't remember that much about it. All I remember is that it was very much giving Ghibli vibes, and I really liked that. And it was just about this girl, and I think she fell into the sea. Shocking. And there's like this god that her whole town worships, and she got sacrificed in the sea for the god, and then she ends up in the spirit world. Like, it really did remind me of Spirited Away, now that I think of it. So yeah, I really liked it. The plot was interesting, was very much, like I said, giving Ghibli vibes, so I loved that. Yeah, now on to the next one, which is called Six Crimson Cranes, and basically the same I just said goes for this one as well. Very much Ghibli vibes. I really liked it. It's a retelling of one of my favorite fairy tales. Just in the fairy tale I knew, it's either swans or ravens, I think, instead of cranes. But yeah, this book is about a girl, and her evil stepmother turned her brothers into cranes. 6 crimson cranes, you know. And then what was it? I think she can't talk. She used her magic so that the main character can't talk anymore, and no one knows who she is. No one knows she's a princess, and then so she has to like find her brothers and try to turn them back, and the whole vibe was very Ghibli as well. And I think that's what I like the most. I really like books that have this like soft fantasy vibe, maybe, because I think it's more fun than being thrown into like this aggressive world, and you have so much world building. And Ghibli books, I don't think they establish that much world building. Like, it's just about the vibes and the magic. I think that's me. I'm just there for the vibes. I don't care about anything else. If there are vibes, I'm there. Again, the exact same with the next book, which is called Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries. And I'm really excited because I think the 3rd book is coming out this year, which is why I haven't read the 2nd one yet, because I also heard it has more spring vibes. So I decided I want to read it this spring before the 3rd one comes out, and then I can read the 3rd one. But yeah, I really like this one as well. It has a very different writing style, so I don't know if everyone would love it, because like it's an encyclopedia of fairies, so the writing is a little bit more academic, and it did just feel like I was reading a paper on fairies, which I personally love, because if I could study fairies, I would. I have written a paper about fairy tales before, so this is just like perfect for me, actually. And I really like the main character, which is Emily Wilde, and I also liked the banter between the love interest. Is he a little bit of a red flag? Yes, but if you can like Resand, and I swear to God, if you don't see the red flags with Resand, I'm just saying, I can like this man. Okay, now back to different types of books that are not Ghibli. I read By Yourself, The Damn Flowers by Tam Kaur. I love her. And I was really excited for this book, and I thought it was so good. So this book is a self-help book, and it just talks about self-love and self-acceptance, and also confidence, and also self-love inside of a relationship. So not just like, obviously you should love yourself, but also how you do that while also being with a partner. So how do you stay true to yourself while also being true to that person? And it was just so good, so interesting. I really liked it. I listened to the audiobook as well for this one, and Tam did it so well. It was literally like listening to her podcast. because she has a podcast. You should also listen to that, it's really good. And it was just so nice. Also, it gave a little bit more backstory on her life, because she obviously doesn't have to share everything on social media, but she talked about how self-love and her journey of loving herself changed her as a person, and how she grew up so differently. And yeah, it was just really nice. I actually, like I said, I only have the audiobook, but I actually want to get a physical copy as well, so that I can underline, because I feel like there's a lot. There's a lot that I want to go back to. So yeah, I really like the book. The next book I really liked, I read I think in October, which was perfect, because you gotta know, I don't like horror books, but I like eerie, spooky kind of vibes. And this was actually perfect for that. It's called The Graveyard Book, and it's about this little boy whose parents are killed when he was a baby, and somehow he ends up on a graveyard, and the ghosts of this graveyard decide to take him in and raise him. So it's a human child raised by ghosts on a graveyard. And it started pretty gruesome. I think the very first pages are like the death of the parents, and I thought this was a children's book. I still think it's a children's book, and I do understand. Like, I understand why you would let your child read it, because the story itself is more about the boy growing up. And I think that's actually a very good topic for a child to read, because it's mostly like a story about this boy finding his own place in the world, and just understanding that he might be a little different than the others, and how he fits in the world. And I think that's actually a very good topic for children to read about. I also really like the writing. Again, this was very Ghibli-ish in the writing, I think. Yeah, it was nice, and I had a lot of fun reading this. Okay, so the next book I also read in October. I feel like October was a pretty good reading month, and then it just went downhill because, like I said, I had such a big slump in like November, December, and still now. But yeah, in October I read Vicious by V. Schwab. I have read V. Schwab before, but not much, and I actually liked her a lot, but for some reason I just didn't read anything else of hers. I don't know why. But I decided to give it another go with Vicious, and when I tell you, this book was so good. I honestly had so much fun. I really liked just the setting. So the book is about two guys that are at university, and one of them wants to study like superhuman people. I think they have a name for it, but I don't remember, like extraordinary people or something. And he believes that you gain these like superhuman powers by dying and then coming back to life. And so these two guys just decide, okay, so what if we just kill each other and come back to life? Then maybe we have powers. Might not be the smartest idea, but gotta do what you gotta do for science, you know? Yeah, I really like this. I would also say it's a little bit dark academia, and I had wanted to read it a while ago. Like I said, since I read V. Schwab's books for the first time, I actually wanted to read this one, but for some reason I just didn't. But I'm really happy I finally did, because I really liked it. I'm also just a sucker for found family, so you get me with that immediately. And the story itself was just so interesting. I was so engaged. I really care about these characters so much. And I know there's a second book, but I haven't read it yet, because I think there's supposed to be a third one as well. And I'm scared this second one's gonna end on like a big cliffhanger, and then you have to wait for the third one, you know? So I'm not gonna read it yet, but maybe soon. Oh, I also started A Darker Shade of Magic. Like, that's the first book that I read in January this year so far, and I'm in the second one right now, and I'm really liking this series as well. Okay, on to the last book, and it's a really cute one actually. This book is called A Psalm for the Wild, and oh my god, I love this book so much. This was also when I was on my reading slump, so now that I think about it, I actually read a lot of good books but for some reason they didn't get me out of my reading slump. This book follows a utopian future, I would say. And in this future, humans had built robots to help them with like stuff, machines, just like we do, you know? But the robots actually gained their own consciousness and wanted to have free will. So they said, we don't want to work for you. We didn't choose this life. We just want to go into the wild and be free. And the humans actually said yes. Most unrealistic thing I ever heard, but it's very utopic, I guess. And yeah, so the book itself focuses on, what were they? I think a tea monk that is really looking for their purpose in life and is not really sure what it is yet. And so they go into the wild and meet a robot. And then these two just talk. And I love this book so much. I had so much fun. I would describe the book as like being in the castle in the sky from the movie Castle in the Sky, and having a tea and talk with Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's how I would describe this book. I really liked this book. It was so good. So those are all my worst and best books I read in 2024. I hope you can still see me. I feel like the light is almost gone. But I just really wanted to talk about these books because they were so good. And I actually had such a hard time narrowing it down. I think I had more favorites that I just kept out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna probably go back to reading now. Gonna go back to, what's it called? A Gathering of Shadows, I think. The second book of the Darker Shade of Magic series. I'm really excited for this year. I don't think I'm gonna read that many books actually, because I know I'm not gonna have time for it. But I'm still very excited to see what books I'm gonna read this year. And yeah, so happy reading to you as well, I guess. And have a great day. Bye!